Okay, for this next one, we are verifying that the sine of theta over the cosecant of theta plus the cosine of theta over the secant of theta is equal to secant squared theta minus tangent squared theta. What I'm going to do with this first is, if I'm looking at secant squared theta minus tangent squared theta, that is definitely an identity. I know the secant squared of theta minus the tangent squared of theta, that's just equal to 1, right? We get that from our identity tangent squared of theta plus 1 equals secant squared theta. So if we subtract tangent over, we would get secant squared of theta minus tangent squared of theta, which equals 1. Over here, guys, let's go ahead and see if we can get all this stuff to equal 1. And what I'm going to do is just pull the cosecants and the secants from the denominator. And then I'm going to rewrite this in terms of sines and cosines because that's the only thing that I'm seeing right now. So I'm going to rewrite this as 1 times cosecant of theta times the sine of theta. And this is plus 1 over, and I said 1 times, I meant 1 over secant of theta times cosine of theta. It is just too early in the morning. All right. If I look at this, now I can rewrite this in terms of sines and cosines. And this first one, if we look at that 1 over cosecant of theta, well, in the denominator, that's going to end up as a 1 over sine. So I'll have a 1 over a 1 over sine of theta. 1 over a 1 over sine of theta is going to have it flip back up into the numerator, right? That reciprocal is going to do the keep change flip. So I would end up with a sine of theta. Okay, that's what 1 over cosecant of theta is. It's just sine of theta. So I'd have sine of theta times sine of theta. Notice the same thing would happen over here. We would end up, though, with a 1 over cosine of theta, because secant of theta is 1 over cosine. So that would cause a flip up again for that cosine to the numerator. So we'd end up with the cosine of theta times the cosine of theta. All right. And this all equals 1. And let's look at this, guys. Sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta. Well, and I just kind of put them together. Sine times sine is sine squared of theta plus cosine squared theta. And this does equal 1. This is our Pythagorean identity. So we know all of this from the Pythagorean identity does indeed equal 1. So we got 1 equaling 1. This is verified.